Hey guys, Scott here, and today we're going to talk about patch 6.1.0 and the fact that I think the DBD community as a whole is generally overreacting just a little bit to the amount of changes. Like the ratio of changes to the severity of the reactions, in my opinion, is not quite correct. Now, before I go any further, I do want to make it very clear that this is a killer-sided patch. Let's just all agree on that. This is definitely a killer-sided patch, one of the first we've had in like ever. And so that's a very strange feeling for a lot of people to play this game, and I completely understand. So let's not make any mistakes. This is a killer-sided patch. Additionally, solo queue has always been the weakest role, and solo queue effectively has been made even weaker, which is a direction that we don't want to be going. I'm against that. I've made a bunch of videos about improvements to solo queue with chat ping systems and things like that, and I would love to see that, especially now. But a lot of things on Killer were made stronger that I think did need to be made stronger. So there's a bit of a mismatch here, and I think solo queue is the one that suffered the most. So making those blanket statements, let's get that out of the way. I do agree that solo queue is worse than it was. However, my argument is that it's not nearly as much worse as people are claiming that it is. That's my whole discussion here. If you go to the forums or Reddit or Twitter, people are literally like, I'm quitting the game. That's it. I'm fucking done. Devs have lost their mind. And to be fair, this happens with literally every patch in Dead by Daylight. This community just loves overreacting to everything. Like the endurance meta itself was one of those things. I have not seen like a single off the record my entire time playing yesterday. I may have seen like one or two times, but it was never like impactful in any way. So I think people generally overreact quite a bit. And I think that's happening here. However, I do think there are some reasons why people are going so far in their opinions of this patch, especially solo survivors. And I want to go over that. And a lot of this is just conjecture. I'm not really sure if this is the case, but I'm seeing so many like posts of people just saying like, okay, solo queue is just miserable now. I'm just having like the worst time. I'm always dying, blah, blah, blah. And I have to imagine, like, I have to ask, like, what fantasy solo queue were you playing before this patch that wasn't miserable? Because as someone that plays only solo queue, it's always miserable. Solo queue has always been shit. It's always, in my opinion, been the weakest role in the game. Nothing has changed here. It's still the weakest role in the game. Now, obviously, if you have the weakest role and you make it a bit worse, obviously that's not the direction we want to go, so I understand the frustration, but people are acting like they were escaping every match, and now all of a sudden, that's it, they can't win anymore. Like, dude, no. You were having a self-care Meg in the corner of the map. You had another guy, another teammate, just like in a locker while you're on death hook. Like, this is just how solo queue always goes, so I think there's a bit of confirmation bias going on here. Solo queue has always been pretty miserable. Again, the fact that they made it a little bit worse, obviously not the direction we want to go to, but I don't think it warrants the severity of the reactions that the community has had overall. So let's actually talk about what I think is going on. The first, strangely enough, is just one perk. It's Dead Hard. I think people have become so accustomed to using Dead Hard that they physically do not know how to play without it. And I'm not saying this is an insult. I suffer from the exact same thing. If you use a perk so many times that it basically becomes base kit for you, you forget how to play without it. And in a perfect example of what I'm talking about, when I play Survivor and I always use Dead Hard because why wouldn't you? It's Dead Hard. So when I switch to a build that does not have Dead Hard on it, like I actually take loops in the same way as if I did have Dead Hard, to the point where I get greedy with loop and then I realize, oh shit, I don't have Dead Hard. I can't actually make it a third time around this, and then I die. And that happens basically every time I switch to a build without Dead Hard. I'm just pressing E without even having the perk because it's so wired into my brain that I don't even know how to play without it. And I think we're going to have a period of adjustment for some people. I think a lot of people genuinely don't know how to play without it. They're going to have to realize that they can't loop this thing 3 times now. They have to loop it twice, for example, and then drop the pallet a bit earlier than they normally would. And then I think the time to kill is going to go back to kind of where it used to be. Pallets might go, 5-10 seconds quicker now because you can't take that greed loop. But for the most part, I think the community just has to adjust to not having Dead Hard anymore. And once everyone does, we realize that you just have to take a little bit less, greed with your loops. And then I think for the most part, people will be fine. But it's only been a couple of days. And, that muscle memory, I've been doing that for years. That muscle memory, it's hard to get rid of. It really is. I will literally press E when I don't have the perk. because it's just so ingrained into my head. This is not meant to be an insult to survivors because I've done the exact same thing. It's just simply become a base mechanic for most people, and that mechanic was basically removed. So it's going to be something that we have to adjust to. And I think that is the cause for a lot of people's complaining, is that they're just simply not used to having to play the game without that extra boost. Additionally, there might be something funky going on with matchmaking. And I think this might actually be the majority of the reasons people are saying that it's so miserable right now. I don't even think it has to do with the balance of the game. I don't think enough has changed with the game to warrant that severity of reaction. However, what has felt different is the caliber of survivors that I have been going against. I have noticed I've been getting very good players that are literally moonwalking mid-chase, absolute gods. This was just yesterday, the first day of the patch. And then on their team are people that have never played the game before in their life. They're literally, they don't even know how to unhook people. And I was noticing that a lot. It seems to be that MMR is completely fucked, like beyond belief. And my hypothesis is that it has something to do with the role incentive system, because people are saying that they're not playing Survivor anymore. They're quitting the game in droves and all that, and yet killer queues have become instant, which makes no sense. If you had a role with a certain population, like Survivors had a certain population, you make the Survivor role worse. Now more people are playing Survivor. That doesn't make any sense. There's no logic there whatsoever. And yet killer queues have now, the queues have reversed. Killer queues are now instant when I try to queue during my normal times, and Survivor queues are 5-10 minutes. So I can't even play Survivor anymore. And I think it has something to do with the incentive system, which also is not working, by the way, because it's supposed to be changing. Like, in theory, it should go to the killer side because there's too many survivors, not enough killers. It should switch dynamically, but obviously it's not switching. But I'm thinking because something changed there, and Survivor queue times have gotten so long, and as we know, when queue times get very long, MMR gets worse and worse and worse to the point where it's basically disabled past a certain amount of wait time. So we're getting to a point where queue times for Survivor are so long that there is no more matchmaking, and people are just getting completely random teammates, from comp players to I just bought the game 5 minutes ago. And I think that is actually the main reason that people are having trouble coping with, how bad matches have gotten. I think people are just getting worse teammates because the MMR system is just simply not working whatsoever. And I actually firmly believe that's the main reason that things are being viewed as bad as they actually are. So that's my hypothesis. That's why I think things feel so bad. I don't think the game has changed enough. I think it's just the systems around it. And yeah, that's, I guess, the main point that I really want to talk about. I guess those two things. Because yeah, I genuinely don't think enough has changed to warrant the severity of reaction that we have from the community. All the best game delay perks for killer have been nerfed. Now, obviously, we have the additional 10 seconds per gen, but I would much rather have Old Rune Undying than 10 seconds additional per gen. I think I would get way more game delay with that than not having Rune anymore and having 10 seconds additional time to a generator. So I don't think enough has changed. But yeah, that's it. I just want to go over that. I think everyone needs to just adjust for a bit. Let's give it a couple of weeks. Maybe everyone's completely right. Maybe for the first time, the entire community bitching is actually correct. It's entirely possible, and I may be completely wrong. I just think we need to chill for a couple weeks, see how things adjust, and then make our judgments from there. Again, we do agree that solo queue needs a buff, and I'm hoping that's the next thing that changes. But for now, I don't think things are nearly as bad as the reactions that we're seeing. So that's it. I just want to talk about that. Maybe just relax for a bit, and we'll take it slow. Thanks for watching.